The moon hung high in the night sky, its silver light casting a serene glow over the balcony where Yeon-Myeong stood. He leaned lightly against the railing, his gaze fixed upon the celestial orb, as if seeking answers to questions only the heavens could provide. The soft rustling of leaves in the distance added to the tranquil ambience, broken only by the sound of approaching footsteps. Behind him, Changsik entered the chamber and bowed deeply. His respectful demeanor and careful steps reflected the weight of the message he carried. Yeon-Myeong turned, his expression calm yet contemplative, the title of Lord of the Alliance ringing in his ears. It was a mantle that still felt unfamiliar, a weight that had replaced the once familiar title of Young Lord, yet the events of recent days left no doubt. He had earned it through deeds that resonated across the martial world. Changsik's tone, steady and deferential, spoke of the unwavering confidence others now placed in Yeon-Myeong. He recounted the message that had brought him to the balcony, mentioning a visitor from the Myeong clan. At the mention of the clan, Yeon-Myeong's brows furrowed slightly. The Myeong clan, once a renowned sect in the martial world, had been obliterated by the Heaven's Brilliance Demon Lord, leaving little trace of their former glory. To hear their name invoked now was unexpected, and curiosity tinged his otherwise composed expression. But then came the words that froze Yeon-Myeong in place. Word ghost, the Herculean body, the force technique. The names struck him like a thunderclap, shattering his calm. His gaze sharpened, his body stiffening as his thoughts raced. These were not merely idle words. They carried a significance that stirred something deep within him. Seated in his office, Yeon-Myeong exuded a quiet authority that matched the weight of his title. Before him stood a man with a humble demeanor, his presence marked by an air of urgency. Introducing himself as Myeong Hui, the visitor wasted no time in revealing the purpose of his visit. Myeong Hui's words carried a daring edge, as he addressed the heart of his intrigue, the swordsmanship Yeon-Myeong had displayed during a recent duel. His observations were sharp and his claim was bolder still. The techniques mirrored those of the sword ghost, a figure revered as the greatest swordsman of an era 2 centuries past. The implications of such a connection rippled through the room like an unseen current. Yeon-Myeong listened intently, his expression a blend of calm scrutiny and veiled intensity. His response, though measured, carried a weight that pressed upon Myeong Hui, compelling the latter to reveal more. Questions arose. How could Myeong Hui recognize the force technique, a skill so esoteric that few could identify it? And further, had he himself mastered such a formidable method without the extraordinary physique required for its cultivation? Myeong Hui, momentarily taken aback by Yeon-Myeong's pointed inquiries, collected his thoughts before continuing. His mind raced with possibilities, the connection between Yeon-Myeong and the sword ghost becoming increasingly plausible. He recounted a history steeped in tragedy and brilliance. The sword ghost, once an illegitimate child within the Myeong clan, had endured ridicule and neglect, only to rise above his circumstances through sheer mastery of the clan's sword techniques. By the time he reached 20, his unmatched skill had sown discord over the question of succession. Disillusioned and bereft of familial bonds, he departed the clan, vanishing into the wider martial world. A decade later, the sword ghost's fame had reached its zenith, his techniques earning him an unparalleled reputation. Despite attempts by the Myeong clan's elders to bring him back into the fold, he refused, claiming his art was incomplete. For decades thereafter, his fate remained a mystery, until the clan stumbled upon a tomb bearing the inscription Sword Ghost's Mausoleum. Within it, they discovered texts left behind by the enigmatic master, texts that illuminated the path to cultivating the force technique. Myeong Hui's tale concluded with a sense of reverence and inevitability. The Sword Ghost's legacy, long buried and thought lost, had resurfaced, weaving itself into the present. And now, standing before Yeon-Myeong, Myeong Hui couldn't help but wonder whether the man before him was the living embodiment of that legacy, the force technique reborn through an heir destined to carry it forward. Yeon-Myeong's gaze sharpened as he absorbed the weight of Myeong Hui's revelations. The room seemed to grow colder as the implications sank in. To attempt the force technique without the Herculean body was to court death itself, the strain of its cultivation an insurmountable burden for an ordinary human physique. Yet here stood Myeong Hui, a testament to both audacity and desperation. Myeong Hui's demeanor remained humble, his tone steady despite the gravity of his words. He explained how the immense strain of the force technique had accelerated his cultivation, forcing him down a path he could not abandon. Hope had driven him, the belief that the sword ghost, in his unparalleled brilliance, would have left behind a solution to overcome the physical toll. It was a gamble, one that risked his very life, but he had clung to that belief with unwavering resolve. But the story took a darker turn, the shadows of the past creeping into the present. Before Murong Hui and his clan could uncover the method they so desperately sought, calamity struck. The Heaven's Brilliance Demon Lord descended upon the Murong clan, bringing death and destruction. Unlike the typical invader, the Demon Lord ignored the clan's wealth, focusing instead on interrogation and slaughter. Each act of violence seemed calculated, driven by an insidious goal, to uncover something hidden within the clan. The weight of Murong Hui's tale lingered in the air, the tragic downfall of the Murong clan painting a grim picture of relentless ambition and unrelenting power. Yeon-Myeong's thoughts churned as he considered the implications, the echoes of the sword ghost's legacy now intertwined with his own path. At the Namgung residence, a tense silence blanketed the surrounding as Jung-hyuk arrived unannounced, his presence exuding a cold, menacing aura. Standing tall and composed, he fixed his icy gaze on Namgung Jangshin, the renowned Sword King. The two figures faced each other, their years of enmity etched into the very air between them. Jung-hyuk's voice carried a calm yet chilling undertone as he addressed his adversary, his words heavy with both mockery and menace. It had been over a decade since their last encounter, a bitter memory for Jung-hyuk, whose attempts to destroy the Namgung clan had been thwarted. Yet, the defeat had not broken him. It had transformed him. Today, he vowed, would mark the end of the Namgung clan's defiance. Namgung Jangshin, ever composed, met Jung-hyuk's provocation with a mocking smile, his demeanor unshaken by the threat. The Sword King's sharp words cut through the tension, recalling their fateful battle years ago when he had bested Jung-hyuk without even wielding a sword. The irony of Jung-hyuk now challenging him with a blade was not lost on him. Jung-hyuk's confidence remained undeterred. He spoke with a dark satisfaction, claiming that his defeat had driven him to understand the profound art of swordsmanship. Over the years, he had acquired powerful techniques, refining himself into a formidable opponent. His conviction was clear. He believed himself ready to stand against the Sword King. Namgung Jangshin's response was laced with derision, his pride as the Sword King unwavering. The very idea that a decade of sword training could rival his lifetime of mastery was laughable. Yet, the challenge intrigued him. This was no ordinary duel. It was a clash of philosophies, skill, and the legacies of their martial arts. Without further delay, both warriors summoned their energy. The air around them crackled with power as their auras flared, filling the surrounding area with an oppressive force. In an instant, they moved, their swords cutting through the tension like lightning. Each strike was precise, each movement deliberate, as they closed the distance between them. Their blades met in a deadly equilibrium, each tip hovering mere inches from the other's neck. The confrontation was a testament to their unparalleled skill and unyielding resolve, a battle that promised to etch itself into the annals of martial history. Yeon-Myeong sat in silent contemplation, the weight of Murong Hui's story pressing heavily on his mind. The idea that someone had stolen the Sword Ghost's martial arts left him unsettled. Questions swirled within him. Why would someone, especially the young lord of the demon sect, abandon the heavenly demon divine art, the ultimate pinnacle of their martial lineage, to pursue the techniques of the Sword Ghost? The logic was puzzling, the motives unclear, but the implications were unmistakably grave. Murong Hui's voice broke through Yeon-Myeong's thoughts, his tone hesitant but firm as he pressed once more for clarity. He sought to understand the connection Yeon-Myeong had with the legendary Sword Ghost, the thread that seemed to tie him to this mysterious legacy. Unwilling to reveal the truth, that he was the disciple of the Sword Demon, Yeon-Myeong deftly crafted a partial truth to deflect the question. He spoke of a phantom sword that had appeared before him in his childhood, during a moment of vulnerability when he was being bullied. It was an enigmatic memory, one that offered just enough of a link to the Sword Ghost's legacy without betraying his own secrets. Murong Hui's reaction was immediate, his composure breaking as he recoiled in surprise. The mention of the phantom sword seemed to strike a chord deep within him, stirring emotions that even he struggled to suppress. Yeon-Myeong's expression remained thoughtful as he continued, revealing more about his enigmatic connection to the sword ghost. He explained his suspicion that the techniques he had inherited were part of a martial art left behind by the legendary swordsman. An illusion of the sword ghost's blade had appeared to him, imparting its secrets, a memory as vivid as it was surreal. Myeong Hui, unable to conceal his astonishment, pressed further, his disbelief evident. The idea that Yeon-Myeong had mastered such techniques without the Herculean body, the prerequisite for safely cultivating the force technique, seemed implausible. Could Yeon-Myeong, perhaps, have inherited that rare and extraordinary physique? Yeon-Myeong met the inquiry with calm clarity, explaining that he had not been born with the Herculean body. Instead, he had adapted the sword ghost's teachings to align with the Tang clan's cultivation methods. The technique he mastered was incomplete, shaped by his own understanding and innovation. It was only during his battle with the Black Death Alliance leader that he had realized his clan's methods could accommodate the force technique's unique properties. Even then, it had only been possible because his martial skills had surpassed the fire realm, a level of mastery few could ever hope to achieve. For anyone else, attempting such a feat would be a perilous folly. His tone grew more serious as he addressed Myeong Hui's plight. It was clear to Yeon-Myeong that Myeong Hui sought a solution to the devastating toll the force technique was taking on his body. Yet Yeon-Myeong offered no false hope. Instead, he advised the man to abandon his current cultivation entirely, a stark but honest warning grounded in his own hard-earned knowledge. Myeong Hui listened in silence, his shoulders sagging under the weight of Yeon-Myeong's words. Resignation seeped into his demeanor as he acknowledged the reality of his situation. The truth was bitter, but it was undeniable.